Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, we are here with the Beacon TVL show, as we are every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. My name is Chris, co-founder, head coach, director of Happy here at Beacon DeFi. We've got an awesome guest today. We actually had a third member of our panel, good old Robert Arthur Williams. He's not feeling the best today. Hire that man, as we like to say whenever he's around. But yeah, Robert, hope you get well soon. And which can't wait to have you on a future panel. But we have Max from Variational.io here today. Max, good to see you, man.
Hello world.
Yes, hello world. We actually met Max in we were at a coffee meetup together, and really vibed with him. Loved what he was talking about. Found out that he's part of a really awesome protocol that's coming to Arbitrum mainnet soon. And really excited to kind of chop it up and really talk shop and see what happens next in the world of perps. So we'll for those of you who don't know what perps are, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But before we get to that, I definitely wanted to get to the things we normally cover during this part of the show, which is what's the market looking like. So we'll check that out right now. 1 second. And as you can see, stop selling your Bitcoin, people. My goodness. What is going on here?
Just can't break above 70K. It just can't happen.
We touched it, didn't we? We had the mythical golden crossing last week, like on Thursday-ish. And we saw Bitcoin touch, almost touch 70K. And then, since actually I take that back. It was 69.2, I think is where we got. And then
it just can't break it, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Ultimately, if we zoom out, right? Let's go a year. We could probably go even further. I mean, we're looking, to me it looks like a really interesting bull flag setup. Essentially we're just waiting for more higher lows and higher highs, lower highs. What I'm talking about?
Higher lows.
Yeah, exactly. Higher lows. And we're just not quite there yet. But we've got a lot of catalysts coming. We've got the US elections coming. We have possibly another rate cut by the Fed next month. We're going to see a lot of people starting to come in, especially with what we learned at permissionless. Just a lot of tokenization coming on board. We'll talk about what happened with Stripe as well. We're going to see a lot of interest in crypto moving forward, in my personal opinion. Looking at bubbles, over the last week, we had a launch. We had where did it go? Ape Chain came out, and I believe Ape Chain is a layer 3 on top of Arbitrum Orbit. They're up 67.5%. What happened to the big bubble for? I can't even tell you what coin that was. I was just looking at it. Well, it must not be that amazing anymore, because it's gone. If anybody knows what that coin was supposed to be. In any case. Oh, it was GOAT. It was GOAT. The rise of AI powered meme coins are here. We're not really going to talk about GOAT today, but there's a lot of talk about these AI based, content based meme coins that are coming. So meme coins still being the oil of movement in DeFi is still a thing. Probably will continue to be a thing. Last week we had Chris from XRP Cafe talking about XRP Ledger and how a lot of people are curious, why are NFTs and meme coins on the XRP Ledger? I'm like, because these are what's going to bring the most of people in first, and then the bigger things that build on top of that are going to be on top of that. So, and any thoughts right now on how the scene is looking here on the day? Obviously quite red, but overall, week to week, obviously we're still seeing a lot of interesting players kind of pop up here. Max, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the overall market still feels kind of flat. We'll have like random days where things go up 5%, but then it'll bounce right back down. So like long term still feels like we're in like this wait and see kind of moment. But yeah, I do think there's, of course, as any time in crypto, like going to be narratives and things that pop up and that you can take advantage of and jump on for like, weeks and whatever. So seems like the, AI meme coins is like one of those flavors of the week. I think Arbitrum orbit chains like Ape Chain and I think like Senko, and I've seen a couple
Yep.
others. I think Layer Zero even just released like a bridge between orbit chains and mainnet or something. So they're probably gonna see a lot more liquidity and like, because right now they're very isolated, or at least they were before the bridge, with like 7-day withdrawal times and stuff. So I think those will probably see some attention. But yeah, overall, just like, yeah, like as I just saw in the chat, like seems like a lot of people are waiting for the election and just like waiting for whatever that next big narrative is going to be that like pushes Bitcoin either above 70 or below 50 is like where we're going next, I feel.
I like that thought from Max, practically just calling all of the all of the layer threes like DMT from Senko, Ape from Ape Chain, Zai from Zai Chain, and even like Winners chain there, because they're doing all the betting and whatnot. So uh would be remiss if I didn't bring up our community. If you're wondering, if you're waiting for the election, you're trying to figure out how can I best take advantage of that. Let's start with our first little advertisement for our free community here, Total Value Locked by Beacon DeFi. Since February, we were almost to that 1,000 member mark. Again, 1,000 members. Once we get there, we're giving a whole ton of giveaways, whether that be free offering, memberships, one-on-one coaching, NFTs, straight cold hard cash, whatever it's going to be. Our team's trying to figure out and put their noggins together on what the big giveaways are going to be. We'll talk to our partners as well if there's going to be giveaways they want to give away to celebrate 1,000 active members here in Total Value Lock. Again, we're building a whole community of action takers, people who want to go and be early to everything that's going on, with everything that's happening. Again, absolutely free to join. Learn from the best in the business. Skool.com/beacon. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit as we continue with our questions and the call for help section of our talk today. But before we get to talking about Variational, which I'm very excited to do, we'll talk about the news of the week. Let's start with, let's see, what should we start with? I have an agenda for these things. Oh, we have. So I wanted to talk about our little cold open. So let's start with that. It's like, and I think I told this to you, Max, like I was down a rabbit hole of just software that can really make your life better. We're in a stage where AI and things like this are helping us with our crypto decisions. And there's all kinds of software like TradingView and stuff like that there. So I wanted to know from your standpoint, what is software that you feel you can't live without, that's worth every penny that you pay for? I'll start. For me, I'm currently, even though I have a Linux laptop, I have a PC, and I have a MacBook, which is the main driver right now. For me, I think Telegram Premium is a necessary thing. I'm trying to figure out if it really is, but regardless, I have to use it mainly for work because everywhere I go, we're doing business development. Nobody wants to use anything but Telegram, maybe email every once in a while. So that's one. Claude.ai has been super clutch for me. Being an IT vet, I can still keep up with things from a coding standpoint, look things up. GPT can be your best friend. I can tell you as a university professor, people ask, are you worried about your students using AI? No, because that tells me that they have critical thinking skills. And that's the one thing I'm going to hire for. I want people who can take action, know the best way to find the answer, and at least be able to verify that's right. You're not going to, create a smoke show or, pull the wool over somebody's eyes for, going on to Google and trying to figure out the answer to a question, because frankly, there's so much to know, so much to learn. Most people are going to do it anyway. Shotter Pro, for me, for screenshots, I think it's like $8 for a lifetime license. If you can get like a screenshot tool, like whether it be like on Windows, I use Greenshot, that's open source. There's Snagit, stuff like that out there. It's so clutch for, a lot of things that I do, especially here at Beacon. And then for me, I do pay for a monthly set app subscription. It's $10 a month. I used to access there's at least 6 or 7, maybe 10 more really cool tools that are available that are paid, but you can actually, pay a subscription to set app. I think it's like $9 a month to get access to all that stuff. So It's already paid for itself in my personal opinion based on some other things that I do. So that to me, those are things that I think are good for that type of thing. What about you, Max? What are some pieces of software that you pay for you think are worth it and stuff you can't live without?
For sure. I'll echo your AI thing. I think that's like an essential for whatever you do. Like if you're coding, if you're doing, so I'll take more of like a marketing perspective on it. But for writing like drafts and even like outlining things, it's incredibly helpful. It like makes me probably 5x, speed on being able to crank out content. Some others that I think are very like growth marketing specific are Twitter Blue. If you're trying to grow a Twitter account or at all, you need to have Twitter Blue. And like that obviously changed when Elon took over, but the like, it just gives you like a raw boost in the algorithm. So I hate to call Twitter pay to win now, but in a sense, you kind of have to pay to compete and be on the same level. So I think Blue is a great one. Discord Nitro is another good one for if you're in like bigger servers and stuff. Getting those boosts can be helpful to like actually create a fun community, have stickers, animated stuff, all that.
Also gives you access to 200 servers as opposed to 100.
True, yeah. So if you gotta keep up with all your projects. And then I think the other one that I'll note is maybe for marketing, I'll say Kaito, actually.
Oh, really?
They're a relatively new
Wow.
product, but I actually like them a lot. And that might be a hot take, but I think that their ability to like track mindshare is really unique, and the granularity of like you can click into like any Twitter account and see like, okay, which are who are the actual smart people that are following this, and kind of work backward from that. So if you're like trying to target or like surround a specific person with marketing, a great way to do that is just to go on Kaito and see like who are the people that they follow and engage with. So that's helped actually craft like a lot of good strategies for us. So I will say Kaito, I think that they are pretty useful. And then on like the free side, I'd say like OBS. I love OBS. Gecko Terminal. I switched to Gecko Terminal when Dex Screener started doing all the like pay for boosts thing. And I think Gecko Terminal is great. Someone asked, how is it spelled? I think if you're talking about Kaito, it's Kaito.
Yeah, Kaito is very expensive.
They are, yes. Definitely not for smaller projects, but if you're like a big, if you're running a growth team or running a marketing team for a larger project, I definitely recommend it.
We looked at it and we decided to continue, doing our own, scraping and that type of thing, just because it just wasn't for us. It's an expensive piece of software.
It definitely is.
And I talked to Blockworks at Permissionless about this. I'm not to throw shade on them, but we used to use Blockworks research, and I think things like Kaito and some of these other tools that are coming out are going to put their model at jeopardy.
I mean, I think that competition is always great. Like
competition's great.
The more that these two products are scared that they're going to lose mindshare, the better they're going to make their own thing. So
that's true. That's a great point.
And then I got one more that came to my mind.
Go ahead.
Pay for a good VPN. That's like number one crypto advice. Like, don't use like NordVPN or whatever free tier. Like, find one that doesn't sell your data to governments and use that. I personally, I like Windscribe. I've been using them for years and years. There's a lot out there that are very safe and good, but yeah, just do like a tiny bit of research, because most of the VPNs that I see people using are like CIA fronts. So take it a little more seriously than that.
I should have full disclosure and say that we do have an affiliate agreement with NordVPN. So we do.
I didn't say that. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I use Mozilla, so because it's Molvad. So
I'm a big like open source. If I can, I like Windscribe because you can pay anonymously, like Monero, Bitcoin, all that kind of stuff. So that's important to me. But any VPN is better than no VPN. I'll say that.
That's correct. Right, we say that all the time inside of our content. That's awesome. No, I appreciate that. So let's move on to our first topic. I appreciate you sharing all that alpha for us. I mean, and basically investing in yourself. I mean, when you have that's the ultimate alpha, right? This is interesting. Quark ID from ZK Sync, or rather powered by ZK Sync, launches their first digital identity platform for the entire citizenship of Buenos Aires, Argentina, the land of Javier Milei. So they have a platform called MIBA, which is like an online platform for municipal citizens. And now they have digital identity that's launching, which, cool. You have like a digital, I guess a digital driver's license. What else is here? Other attributes of their citizenship for Buenos Aires are now backed in a zero knowledge proof. So the interesting part is the bold part. It says the government no longer has any visibility into how, where, or when these identity documents are used. So we're literally talking about, when we talk about your keys, your crypto, your bank, now your actual identity. This is an interesting development because, in a world where we have, WorldCoin scanning your iris and they're calling themselves the super chain for identity. We have other things that have been out there forever, that for DID solutions. I can't name any of them because they're just on the tip of my tongue currently, but there are many other DIDs that have come out, in the past. For ZK Sync to come through on this level is actually very fascinating because they're using zero knowledge proofs, which by itself, a very contested technology. There's a million people trying to do ZKs and none of them can agree to do it in any specific way for a standard. This is going to be interesting. This is digital sovereignty that is now being born in this case. And the ability to actually control the visibility on your personal documentation, I think, is very cool. This is obviously an experimental thing. We're just starting out with this stuff. But Max, I want to get your thoughts on this. I'm sure you have some thoughts on this. So
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's cool. So I guess I'll lead by saying, like, I definitely prefer like the ZK identity piece over the WorldCoin solution.
Right.
So like that's kind of a given. Like I think this is the right direction. And I think one thing that's interesting is specifically the location. And I think it's cool to note here that Buenos Aires is cool for a couple of reasons. First, Argentina has incredible crypto usage, like day to day. So there's some countries in the world where instead of just using crypto as like a speculative asset, they actually use it like regularly to buy and sell things. So countries like Nigeria, Turkey, and Argentina, like places where inflation is crazy, they're very comfortable with crypto. They use it very regularly, and the ownership percentage of crypto there is very high, oftentimes like 70, 80%. So I think that this is a great place for them to put out like a trial like this, because it's a user base that, ideally won't have too much to learn. Like they're probably already fairly familiar with like managing keys, managing wallets, all that kind of stuff. So I think this is a great location for it. And then I guess it's also fun to mention that like Javier Milei, like I'm sure that this is right up his alley. Their like whole libertarian pivot of Argentina, this very much aligns with them politically. So I think from like a ZK Sync perspective, this is fantastic for them. Like they're going to get a ton of real users that are going to be testing out like a real world use case, that's kind of been promised for, probably 5-10 years now. And we're just now starting to see it come to fruition. So I think it's awesome. I'm really excited to see how it plays out. I mean, obviously there's a lot of weirdness that they're going to have to figure out, like what happens with identity theft and like stuff like that. Definitely some stuff to figure out there, but I'll be keeping an eye on it, how it plays out. I know like I worked with a couple guys in Argentina at my previous company, and they're all like very big crypto, like they're very native to the space. So yeah, that's why I think this is particularly interesting to me, is just like these people are comfortable with crypto. These are crypto users. So yeah, I think it'll be fun to see it play out. I think it'll go way better in Buenos Aires than if we tried to do it in like New York City or something like that.
Yeah, I agree completely. What's interesting is that this is their architecture is open source and is recognized as a digital public good. This goes a long way to making this sustainable, at least on an international level. Because when you have something like this that sounds fairly rudimentary, but at the same time realizing how complex and how far down the security rabbit hole you have to go for this. What I like about this is that, when we talk about self-custody, this is something that a lot of people want, but at the same time, you're going to have to embrace the responsibility of what it means to control your data. Uh, it's literally like me going to the DMV, the motor vehicle place, and saying, here's your registration, here's your license, it's all digital. We don't know anything more about what you're going to do with it after that. Keep it safe. And you're like, well, wait, what? It's like, is there like a wrench attack waiting for me when I get to the parking lot? These are all things that you have to keep safe. You're going to have to learn. Everyone's going to have to learn moving forward, how to keep your personal details safe. I mean, first it was cursive. Now it's going to be, your own self-custody data. I mean, these are things that, honestly, yeah. I mean, at 17 or 18, would I be ready for that responsibility? I'll be honest, I'm not sure.
I'm
So I
not sure
guess
either.
the
And it
yeah,
almost, it's concerning, like, especially for like the older generations, I think, where like
yeah,
if it is built in such a way that like if I click a malicious link and sign a transaction that like my identity documents can be exposed or drained or something, like that it was obviously a terrible scenario and something that they're gonna have to figure out. So I'm sure there's some sort of plan in here where like everything's non-transferable or blah blah blah. But I'll have to dig in a little bit more to see how they actually address that. One of the
yeah.
other
You would think this is soul bound for sure, right?
Oh yeah, you would 100% think. But even then, it's like your keys are ideally what's keeping it like private to you.
Right.
So if that can get exposed, like identity is just public on chain at that point.
Yeah,
So
you definitely want rollback thing. You want rollback. You want something like a private blockchain where it's immutable but not public knowledge. You don't know who owns what. You don't know who holds what. You just have ZK proofs that help govern the whole thing. So, yeah, really interested to see what happens with this. I think this is a big day. I think for decentralized identity,
I agree.
this is a big day for anything.
You kind of touched on this, but like there was almost like a race to be the first to like actually do something like this. So I wonder if this will end up becoming like some sort of international standard, especially given that it's like open source. So I'm sure that like other countries and cities are keeping an eye on this, and we'll watch how it plays out. And I'm sure the ZK Sync guys are doing the same, hoping it goes
Yeah,
very well.
yeah, yeah. I'm not, unfortunately, the flood of thoughts in my head are coming from the politicized area of all this as well, and just let's see how Texas deals with this. That's what I'm
We'll
curious
see. We'll
about.
see.
We'll see. We'll go ahead and move on. Another big move that happened. I have it here somewhere. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. Um, well, Stripe has acquired Bridge for $1.1 billion, and ultimately, well, some people may wonder who is Bridge, and I get that. Some people may wonder who is Stripe, and I also get that. But for many reasons, uh, and just as full disclosure, we use Stripe here at Beacon when it comes to payment processing. This is actually very big news. Um, and I'll tell you why. Stripe's claim to fame, and they've been around for more than I guess more than a decade at this point. Their claim to fame is that they created a multi-gajillion dollar way for Web 2 companies to integrate payments on their website in literally less than 10 lines of code. It's just a little widget that you use to then handle payments. And obviously, there's so much more to Stripe now. I think it was technically 7, but um, Stripe is in many things that you may not see, whether it's paying in point of sale, online. Stripe is in a lot of different places. So the reason why this is interesting is because what Bridge built essentially is an API for stablecoins. Uh, the reason why this is important for Stripe is that the only real way to settle right now in terms of stablecoins is to use something like Visa, MasterCard, their payment rails, because they've been in this space for years. If you didn't know that Visa's been on ETH mainnet testing, they were testing back on Polygon back in the day. They've been around forever. And MasterCard, has had multiple deals. Like, and they had one with Binance they let lapse with regards to processing payments. That means they don't have to rely on them. They don't have to rely on other competitors. They can control the settlement of these payments. Uh, this is going to vault them into a conversation with companies like Paxos, um, Braille, something like that. There are other, huge stablecoin issuers that are in this space that now Stripe has a seat at the table for. They're going to build on this. This is from Yash Agarwal, who's from Super Team and Send on Solana. They're going to be able to control specifically how these things are going to be done. And if, Stripe integrates with something like on Solana, like with blinks and stuff like that, watch out, because it's going to open up stablecoin payments around the world for everybody through multiple stablecoins. Let's see. Yeah, Braille, Paxos, and Zero Hash are probably the main competitors that they have, in this particular space. But they're going to create a full stack, and this is from Yash in terms of his potential crypto bet. But this is what they're going to be building now. Now they have to take care of the crypto on and off ramps, which, by the way, they already have. If you've ever used crypto.link.com, and we've talked about this on our calls previously, you can easily onboard US dollars from your bank account, wherever, into an actual Ethereum and I think Solana account as well. Yeah, USDC on Solana. So, I mean, ultimately, you have access to multiple things here on this off ramp. They built this a long time ago, actually, at Stripe. So, for them to come around and continue building more on ramps, but also off ramps, I think is going to be the key here. So, before I continue, Max, if you have any thoughts on this acquisition, would love to hear them.
Oh man, I've got a bunch of thoughts.
Let's do it.
Okay, let me run through them. All right, first thought: Bridge is like literally a company that nobody's ever heard of, which is crazy.
Exactly.
Like I am like incredibly deep in crypto, work in the space, never heard of them. You I imagine the same until this announcement.
Right.
And it really just goes to show that like so much of crypto right now is still obsessed with B2C, but B2B is like super viable. And I think this just like proves that. Like these guys were on Twitter. They had like, I think it was like 600 followers. Like they literally did no marketing to like the crypto space. And I think that's super unique because you almost get told like when you're a new crypto project that like it's essential for you to like be part of the community and be on Twitter and like XYZ. These guys just said no, like we don't need that, and just got acquired for 1.1 billion. So I think this is going to start almost like a renaissance of like B2C businesses being started in crypto now that we see like such a clear path to success and what that looks like. So I think keep an eye out for that. That'll be something I think is cool. The other piece that I'll mention is I think payments has always been crypto's use case. Like payments and gambling are like the two things that crypto can do better than anyone else. And that the payments piece is like what got, I think, most people into crypto early on. Like when I found out about Bitcoin, like it really clicked when I was able to like send someone Bitcoin and like they gave me a good or an item or something in return. So I think that this is a step in the right direction where like my vision is that crypto is accepted everywhere in the future. And like this is a step in the right direction. But I am a little bit hesitant just because stable coins are in some ways very antithetical to that like original Bitcoin vision that I was talking about, where like Circle owns USDC and like they can freeze anyone's balance at any time. So it does give me a little bit of pause to be like, all right, like before we go completely into like, yes, this is the best thing ever, like stablecoins are going to be everywhere, which they are, and it's going to be cool. I do think we should take a step back and be like, okay, we do still want to pay attention to the mission of like, we do want these things to be decentralized, censorship resistant, and like just be aware that like USDC and this integration is not that. So I think we're almost, and I've been saying this for a while now, but crypto is kind of forking off into like, you've got the people that are still like crypto native, building for crypto people, very much in the industry. And then you've got people that are really trying to build it for everyone else. And that everyone else is going to make compromises for them to be willing to use it. And one of those compromises is like, they don't want to have to deal with Bitcoin volatility. So stablecoins are what we're going to end up with. So I think it's just a cool thing to keep an eye on. Like, I definitely don't see this as like the end all be all, like crypto has won, but it is a huge step in the right direction, even with some like caveats and asterisks. But yeah.
No, I think you nailed it exactly on the head in terms of who's building stablecoins. Because we talk about in our group that stablecoins are the killer app of crypto, right? So ultimately, and one thing we learned at Permissionless last week, there's a lot of people interested in stablecoins, specifically RWA based stablecoins, because everyone I talked to that was from a professional company, from a B2C standpoint, they fully believe in what BlackRock has done. So the BlackRock gamble to bring BITL and all of these other things they put together with Securitize for RWAs and tokenizing everything, it wasn't for naught. It's for things like this, things that are like this that are being built to bring the ability for people to easily bootstrap their own stablecoin and bring them online. We're going to see a ton of stablecoins in the next 6 to 12 months. And you're going to wonder again, which one should I use?
Anything other than USDT.
Well, we'll find out, right?
We'll find out.
I mean, honestly, if you were an outsider looking in an institution, you wanted to bring your own stablecoin for your own audience, you look at something like Tether, 1.3 trillion market cap or whatever it is, making billions of dollars in profit every quarter. How could you not want a piece of that pie, right?
And everyone does. That's why you're seeing like the CBBTC. Like we're going to see so many Bitcoin derivatives, stable coins. Like I think every major crypto company, at least exchange, will end up having their own stable for sure.
Yeah, let some alpha go on our group last week that Kraken has soft launched KBTC. So we're going to see more of this. We're going to see more stable coins, more tokenization. This is not a fly by night acquisition by Stripe. This was very much calculated. Timing is exquisite on this, because there's going to be a lot of movement on this, especially with they're really okay. So this is interesting because they're building a narrative here, just like when VanEck created that Solana ETF. They are positioning this directly before the U.S. election, not to manipulate you, obviously, but to hope, based on specific outcomes of that election, that things are going to be thrust in a specific direction. You have to step back and look at the entire picture to see that's exactly what's happening here.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, I think all of these none of these announcements, and especially something as big as an acquisition like this, is always going to have crazy strategy behind it. I mean, I can tell you for our fundraise announcement today, there was a lot of strategy behind it, and this was nowhere near the size and impact of what Stripe is doing. So I guarantee that this was heavily strategized, whether it's around the election or some other event that we don't even know about. I promise you, they're cooking something up for sure.
Well, let's talk about that real quick, and congratulations to Variational with their PR. If you want to just introduce this tweet for us about what happened today, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So we announced our seed round raise at Variational of 10.3 mil from it was led by BainCap and then PeakXV, which was formerly known as Sequoia India and Southeast Asia, I think. And then we got a bunch of other awesome VCs as well on the cap table that we're super happy to have. And yeah, so I guess for a little bit of history here, this round was actually raised in, I want to say it was 2021. And so the round was raised a while ago because Variational used to be Variational Research, and it was a market making fund where we were market making in sexes, dexes, all that. So like a lot of the big DeFi protocols you've probably heard of and used right now, our team was making on heavily in like 2021, 2022, and even some of 2023. And during that time, they kind of realized like the space, especially for like long tail derivatives, thinking like, early meme coins, altcoins, baskets, stuff like that. It's incredibly hard to trade that from even an institutional perspective, not to mention like a retail guy like you or me. So they ended up pivoting the entire business model from being a market making fund into building a trading platform that's specifically designed for institutions and retail to trade long tail. So there's Variational, which is like a protocol underpinning everything. And then we have two pieces on it called Omni and Pro. Omni is a perps platform where you can trade perpetuals, which we will talk about in a second, on all kinds of different assets. So I think we have 700 or so listed right now on testnet. And yeah, and that number goes up by probably 50 to 100 every week. So we're able to list way more stuff than your Binance, your Hyperliquid, like all the other sexes or dexes you're familiar with. So that is probably the main value prop there. And then the other piece, Pro, is really designed more for hedge funds, really advanced traders to build super customized derivatives, say like options or whatever, and then settle them directly peer-to-peer with other, funds, other traders, whatever they want. So yeah, I like to pitch it sometimes as, if you know Hyperliquid, you can kind of think of us as like Hyperliquid with like 10 times more assets, and all of them are actually liquid from day one instead of having to wait for order books to fill out. So yeah, I know I just ranted for a long time, but yeah, today was a huge day for us. We're super excited about it. And yeah, it's going to be big. We're doing a trading competition on testnet tomorrow. So if anyone wants to come like play with perps and experience it and what the product actually looks like, it's all free. You don't need gas or anything. You just need a MetaMask to go connect to the website, and you'll get some test USDC to go long or short whatever tokens you can imagine. And yeah, if you do it well, maybe you'll win some USDC in the trading competition tomorrow. But yeah, today was a huge day for us, and I'm excited to share with everyone what we're doing, because I really do think it's something that crypto has needed for a while, is like just one place where you can go to trade everything simply. So yeah, and
that's a great tease, because we're going to come back to this.
We are
definitely congrats on that. I'm excited at the number of perps, because that's probably the one thing when you go to somewhere like, some of the smaller places, like, I hate to call them small. Obviously, GMX is the darling of DeFi, but places that build alongside like Vela and Buffer and all these other places. The fact that you're coming with hundreds of perps is a huge thing to deliver on. So I'm excited to see how this works. And yeah, excited to have our community be involved with that. We've talked quite a bit about that behind the scenes on how we can make that a reality for you guys. So we'll talk more about that in just a minute, but just wanted to give Max a second to address the tweet, and congrats on the raise. So we'll keep going on other things that caught my eye before we come back to variational. But let's move on to something else that caught my eye. Obviously, we've been seeing a lot of fintech solutions on off-ramping your crypto, but Avalanche has released the Avalanche card. Just before I go too deeply, US people, do not get excited about this, because this is coming nowhere near you anytime soon. But the part that's interesting specifically is because they're using the word credit. And this is the part that caught my eye. Now, what's interesting about this is that you have 3 assets. I guess you could have 5 if you do Bitcoin, Ethereum. Then we have USDC, which I'm assuming is native now USDC. You have Wrapped AVAX, and then you have SAVAX, which is a derivative, an LST from Benchi. That's a long-standing AMM on Avalanche. And you have a credit limit. So in most cases, you see cards from like Cypher and some of these other groups that have some type of fintech behind them. They're like debit cards, right? You just spend your funds wherever you can. This is actually a credit card that's accepted anywhere Visa is. Has the full dearth of features that come with that. But I think the interesting part is, again, the fact that it is a credit card, and your activity is not reported to credit bureaus. Again, they're very targeting on what the people that they're trying to hit here. But I think it's very interesting. And of course, they when people ask about taxes, that's interesting. Of course, no fees when you're spending assets with the card. This is your crypto, first of all. Again, I'm gonna have to see how this all works out. But it's only available to specific residents initially. All right. BRICS, anybody? Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Russia, North Korea, Syria, Iran, along with areas of Ukraine that I guess have been hit.
I saw a bunch of people complaining that it's not just residents, but if you're even a citizen of Cuba or Venezuela, even if you live elsewhere in Central America, you're blocked.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. This is regardless of where they reside, right? So yeah, this is definitely not for those who support BRICS. But Latin America and the Caribbean is where they're going to start. Not shocking with that at all. That's where they're going to, much like we talked about with ZK Sync and Quark, they're going to be testing this out in Latin America and the Caribbean. So could this be coming to the US at some point?
Doubtful.
Doubtful, right?
We can dream.
We can certainly dream. Although it is USDC, so comes from Circle, part of a public company, US public company. So maybe, but I think this is just interesting because it is a credit card. So what happens if you like default on your line?
So that's what I was gonna jump in. Like, I feel like they're almost misleading a little bit by saying it's a credit card, because I feel like they're gonna make you. It'll be like a Camino or any other lending protocol where like you have to have assets deposited to be able to lend out against them. So I don't know. This kind of just seems like a way to like spend in USDC while holding like Avalanche, and then they like automatically convert it for you on the back end at some point. But yeah, I mean, obviously they have no way to get people if they default, so they're going to have to make like there's no real credit happening here. Exactly. In my perspective.
Yeah, it's like I said, as Susan mentioned, isn't it a wrapped Visa? It's all about how they're going to work with the messaging on this.
Yeah.
To try and stay on message with something like this. I'm very curious to see how this happens. The only part, the reason why I brought this up, we've been following Phantom Sonic for quite some time in our groups with Andre Cronje and what he wants to bring. He talked about 5 or 6 different projects he'd like to bring to Phantom Sonic. One of them is an on-chain credit bureau.
I feel like isn't that what Wildcat Lawrence Day from Wildcat is doing with his protocol?
Something like that. Yeah. And again, it's like, I don't think that these are related in some way, but could they? Could we have a different credit model as to how much credit limit you're given? I don't know. It makes you think.
I do. Again, I'll echo my sentiment from the ZK Sync earlier, that is Latin America is going to get some crazy crypto trial runs in the next like 5 years or so. Like Central America, if you're a crypto person, like seems to be the place to be.
Time for everybody to move to Medellin or, Montevideo or other places.
Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires. Yep, that would be cool. We'll go ahead and talk about this shortly. This week was the Skool airdrop. A lot of people were upset. I woke up this morning. At this
point? Every airdrop now.
Every airdrop, right? We were blessed with ARB, and we were unfortunately blessed with just ARB. I mean, that's not true. Obviously, we had Jupiter, we had Layer 0, Celestia, even ZK Sync to a degree for multiple members of our community. I woke up to a tweet about somebody welcoming people back to ZK Sync as part of the end game, and I was like, that's dirty. I laughed out loud, woke my wife up, because I was like, that's interesting. ZK Sync welcoming people back to the end game. That's very wild. Unfortunately, we're seeing that the shrapnel, I guess, if you want to call it, due to sentiment. We're seeing a lot of people swoop in, possibly buying, SCR in a dip. And yeah, if there's going to be a lot of whales holding this token, it's not a good sign. But with regards to tokenomics, they are here, and these will be in the show notes for anybody who wants to check them out. Again, this is their first airdrop, so that just kind of implies there's going to be another one or more. So if you want to continue to hold and continue to farm, you can do so. There are on-chain bonuses. Of course, there are badges and stuff you can also get. Different tiers. A lot of it just makes you very angry inside, depending on who you are, about what's available, especially when you see that certain contributors, certain researchers got thousands, tens of thousands of SCR tokens, while most people who farmed this for months ended up with, a steak dinner. It kind of sucks. But at the same time, a lot of these organizations do good things. Sadly, we were not involved in any SCR drops to us for talking about Skool for 9 months, 10 months. But, maybe next cycle, I suppose.
Maybe the second airdrop.
Maybe the second airdrop will get something. So anybody wants to talk to Skool on our behalf, we'd appreciate you. That's not a big deal. But I just want to say this as a reminder, just as a level set thing, as a reality check. As beautiful as Arbitrum, ZK Sync, Layer 0 Jupiter were, they're under no obligation to give us anything. With that said, there's still great airdrops coming. There's Grass, and there's all these other ones that are coming. Contango, I guess, is one that's also that we just talked about in our group. There's more airdrops coming overall. Keep farming them, but know that you're being farmed for your time. And that's all that airdrops really are to a lot of people. It's just testing and marketing that you're voluntarily participating in. What I will say is, if you do get a lot of these tokens, and most of them, let's be honest, there are a lot of governance tokens. Please, if you decide to hold, I would say do your part and participate. I tell people this all the time with Jupe. We talk to people about active staking rewards and participating in the DAO. Why? Because you actually get a lot of things for it. Do participate in governance. You can help shape a protocol with plutocratic holdings. Let's keep plutocracy alive. And I feel like I should make a t-shirt about that. But
I like that.
It's funny because people are like, yeah, you can democratically choose. I'm like, it's really not that democratic, to be honest. It's about how much do you own. But you can make a difference. I'm not going to say that you can't, because you can. And DAOs are important, especially if you live in Wyoming. They're a good thing to be a part of. All of this to say, please be kind to our group, Phantom Sonic, when you come out in December. We would greatly appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and land the plane to talk, so we can start talking more about Variational for the next 20 minutes here with Unichain. This was announced back on the 10th, and really just starting to feel the ripples this past week. Thanks to Billy Gao, who is head of governance at Stanford Crypto, I guess a huge delegate in Uni. They're upset that this is Unichain. It's on the OP stack. It's built on OP. They are already in testnet. All of this was put together, from Uniswap Labs without consulting the DAO, asking the DAO how they felt.
Hilarious way to follow up your DAO governance voting matters rant.
I mean, I have to have some type of threads going across the board, right? Do you have a feeling about the whole this whole hullabaloo, if you want to call it that?
So I've seen conflicting takes. Like, obviously, I think it's kind of like an open secret that like the Uniswap DAO is like not much of a DAO anyway. It's more of like an investor and like industry consortium. Yeah. So I think that's an important thing to like contextualize, that like it's not like they screwed over like your average DAO participant. Like, it was more like investors that weren't consulted about this, is at least from my perspective. And I've seen conflicting perspectives, and I honestly see both sides, because like on one side it's like, how can you complain about a company going and like delivering value without consulting you? Like, if it is a net good thing, then like they should just go and do it, and without like dealing with the drama of having to get a majority of DAO voters, whatever. But also at that point, like, why even pretend to be a DAO? So it's, I don't know, like I see both sides. Like, it is obviously incredibly hard to move fast and be agile and make decisions when you are constricted by governance and DAOs. But again, like that's kind of the point of why we have DAOs. So like, if they are going to make plays like this, all power to them. But I don't know, let's not pretend it's decentralized governance then.
Yeah, the other part that that probably will make uni stakers a little upset is still there is no fee switch being turned on for uni stakers. So it's like, will there ever be value for uni stakers? I mean, aerodrome and velodrome stakers are pointing fingers and laughing at Unistakers, because they're going to flip Uniswap in terms of concentrated liquidity TVL, and they get 100% of all the fees, whereas Unistakers, zero. But today, Uniswap announced finally their partnership with Across to create a new interoperable token standard has also turned into now you can cross-chain swap, or if you want to call it swapping or bridging, between protocols with Across built into Uniswap, which is, that's big news. My only real question is that since you're charging 0.25% for every transaction done on the web front end, does this also apply to bridging and not just swapping? Obviously, it's specific assets that get charged that, but the answer is probably. Again, Labs is making money hand over fist on this type of stuff. It just kind of shows you that, yes, awesome innovations. Yes, these are all still businesses, right? It is what it is. So it's all a matter of, if you want to get it started, if you want to use it, feel free to check it out. Let me know if it's good. I've been a little bit of a fan of a cross protocol for a while. I like interoperability. It's what we need for more of this abstraction away from the user, so they just know everything works in the background, and it doesn't matter what wallet or or what platform you're using. It all just work together, because that's kind of the interface that we need to bring Web3 and DeFi to that next level, for people to come back and start using things. So yeah,
I think it's cool. Also pro interoperability. The L2 ecosystem has hurt my brain for like a year and a half now. So the sooner that we can get all that behind the scenes, the better, in my view.
Agreed. And Uni is still continuing to appreciate value. So, we've been making the call for Uni for quite some time within our groups. And, I do hope that they turn on some sort of fee switch to a reward. God, it's like being a Jets fan or something like that, to be a Uni holder.
It's like being an XRP holder. Just waiting for the switch flip.
Yeah. And people are taking profits on XRP, the saddest part. I'm like, guys, we just started this over the last month. Ripple swell was last week, and people are already selling XRP. Come on, guys. You're keeping up that terrible stable coin gimmick going. Let's go. XRP. I want to see $5 XRP. Obviously, that would be ridiculous, FTV, but
a lot of people would be happy.
Oh yeah, a lot of people would be happy. I don't think we see it, but regardless, I do want all of these ecosystems, regardless of how you feel, they do employ people who are hardworking people like you and me, Max. That we deserve, people like that deserve to see the spoils of their hard work. And it's easy to dismiss that kind of stuff when we make jokes about Unistakers and stuff like that. But I do want people to know that we do want everyone as a part of this ecosystem to thrive and survive. That's the goal. Because as Variational succeeds, as Beacon succeeds, as Uni succeeds, it's all good for everybody here in this space. So we'll keep doing that. So we'll go ahead and start talking. Go ahead.
On that note, remember when the Aave founder got liquidated on his loan?
Yep.
I feel like I was one of the only people that was like, let the dude take his profit. He built one of the most fundamental DeFi protocols in the entire space. And we're getting up in arms about him selling. I don't know. I feel like if you build something awesome like that, I'm not going to judge people for taking a payout or anything there.
That's something we also say as a meme. Never apologize for taking profit. People wonder all the time. It's like, when should I take profit? Whenever you want to. Don't apologize for taking profit. They won't.
True.
Right?
No one else is.
No one else is. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Variational. There's going to be a lot of people watching the stream today, or in the recording, for example, and they're curious about perps. You gave a tremendous introduction to how Variational is going to work. You already talked about the platform. So let's talk about, breaking it down to its smallest part. What's a perp?
Great question. So perps are, you can think of it as a future, if you're familiar with that, without an expiration date. And to make it even more simple, you can think about it as an instrument that is, tied to the price of the underlying without actually being the underlying. and you're able to bet on which way that price is going to go without having to hold the actual asset. So the cool thing about perps is really their simplicity, and that's why they've become so popular and why they've taken off. There was like a perps kind of pseudo equivalent in TradFi, but they really started blowing up with I think it was BitMEX in like 2016 invented the perp, and that was a huge deal because it allows you to take the real like quick TLDR on why you should care about perps. It lets you take short positions really easily, and it lets you long with leverage. Are like the TLDR, like why should you care about perps? So yeah, I think that like perps really are the ideal derivative for people who are like just getting into derivatives, just trying to learn about like how does this stuff all work, because they are almost as simple as trading spot. There's like maybe 2 or 3 more things you're gonna have to learn. One of them being like the funding rate. So like because you have this this price is like tied to the price of an underlying instead of actually being the underlying. Sometimes if like everyone's longing the perp, then the price of the perp will be more expensive than the actual underlying. So there's like slight mechanisms in place to where, you know, if everyone's longing, then like there's a funding rate so that if you go in and take a short position, you can get paid. So there's all kinds of like really interesting strategies that come out of this. One that I personally love is, you know, if the funding rate is positive, meaning you can get held or you can get paid for taking a short position, you can just open that short position on a perps platform and then hold the asset spot, and you're completely delta neutral, but you're getting paid funding rates. So like perps just really open up the door for speculation. Like a lot of perps have up to like 100x leverage, so you can really multiply your capital. Like if you're super confident that something's about a moon, go for it. And then on the inverse, like shorting via spot is like truly impossible. Like it's a huge pain in the ass to do it with the actual underlying asset. But via perp, it can literally be as simple as clicking short, picking your leverage, sizing, and then clicking go. So yeah, the TLDR on perps is like, yeah, you get to be able to short, which is really hard and useful. And then you get to be able to long or short with leverage, which allows you to really amplify your exposure to any given asset that you want. So perps, I think, are kind of like a scary word to some people. Like you hear like perpetual future and it's like crazy finance term, but it's really not that hard at all. Like perps were the first derivative that I ever learned about even before options. And I think they're way simpler, like way simpler. So if you understand options, you will have no problem with perps. And there's tons of resources out there too, if you want to go read about like some other strategies like the one I mentioned or like stuff like that. Like there's all kinds of strategies out there to where you can be, you know, as risk on or as risk off as you want while still making the most of like the instrument. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's a unique point that perps are unique to DeFi. You're not going to find them anywhere else. You're not going to find them in TradFi because, you know, options and stuff like that, they have expiration dates, whereas you don't have that.
I'll even note that I'm not super familiar with the regulations, but I would go so far as to say perps are right now like super regulatory unclear on whether or not they're even legal in places like the US. And I think it's just because of the lack of like, obviously like hammered out regulations on like who can and can't you sell a perp to. But our company, Variational, we're not even allowed to, like our founders aren't allowed to live in the US right now while they're building this company. So it's still very new, like very cutting edge. Like TradFi does not have anything like that right now. I think there's the closest comparison would be like, I think it's called like a request for difference or something.
RFDs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are like the closest thing, but yeah.
Yeah, and for anybody who's curious, we did do a boot camp on this 2 months ago. So if you're curious about that, feel free to reach out and we can talk about and get access to that. But down the question line, why do you think there's been such a race to move as much crypto trading as possible on chain? Is it that we don't like sexes, or is it just a better innovation to bring things on chain in a decentralized manner?
I think it's both. So I guess the first one is like FTX is obviously like was a huge thing for many people, many traders that are super native to crypto got burned really hard. And the less people you're trusting to hold your money for you, the better. So I think that a lot of traders will prefer these on-chain solutions over centralized exchanges if they're equivalent in every other aspect. Obviously, if the spreads are tighter on centralized exchanges, traders are more likely to be able to and willing to take that risk. But all else being equal, I really do think that FTX and other incidents like that are driving crypto traders way towards the decentralized, like on-chain aspect of things. So that's one piece. I think the other is just that on-chain stuff actually can be better than centralized exchanges in a lot of ways. One of those being like access to on-chain liquidity is something that sexes like can do, but obviously really don't because they have their own makers and liquidity pools and stuff.
And they have their
So
own liquidity and all that type of stuff.
right. And like I'll even go as far as to say is like because of all those things that we just talked about, where like they need their own makers, blah, blah, blah. It takes them a long time to list things. Like I think I just saw today, like Bybit just got the GOAT perps put up today. And like that token's at $500 million market cap. It's like been blowing up for like 2 weeks now. It's like, why should people have to wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks to be able to trade like the hottest new coin that like everyone's trying to trade? So I think it's just like small things like that that just kind of add up where it's like you're taking on more risk with sexes. They're slow. They're not able to access like all the liquidity that some on-chain things are able to access. And I guess the one cherry on top that I'll put is there a lot of them are just like complacent. So I look at it, there's two types of exchanges. There's the ones that are complete trash that you can't trust, and there's the ones that you can trust. So the ones you can trust have no reason to like mess with anything. They're just trying to stay on top. So their list, like that's like your Binance. Like they're going to list like 10, 20 assets a week, and like you're going to be happy with it because they're Binance and you're going to trade on them regardless. And then you have these like tiny exchanges like Trade Ogre, non KYC. Like you do not trust these exchanges with like $1 on the platform, but they're the only ones that are like motivated enough to go out and list like stuff as it's happening and like get things as soon as possible. So traders really just end up in this like dilemma right now if you're using centralized exchanges, which is like, do I want to go trade all the new hot things on like an exchange that's probably going to rug me in like a year? Or do I want to stick to Binance where I know my money's most likely safe, but like I'm limited to this pool of like 5 to 10 new assets a week? So I think that just like on-chain platforms are just a really good way to like break out of that dichotomy right now. And that's, I think, what we're seeing with like Drift, Hyperliquid, like a lot of these things are starting to get a lot of attention. And I think it's because of those reasons, which like it is purely just a better trading experience for some people.
That's a great point. Are you guys going to do prediction markets out of curiosity?
So we want to. That's like something that we've been chatting about internally a ton is like we have a partner that does price feeds for a lot of the major like election prediction markets. The hard part with perps on that is like the liquidations like have to be very instantaneous, and it might even be like impossible. Like think about it. So like if I have 100x long open on like Trump winning, that happens like instantaneously when he's announced as the winner. And there's not like if he is announced as the loser, like there's no way to liquidate me before like my position is way in like negative margin. And I know I'm starting to get like some bigger words here, but like if I have a huge long open on Trump and then he loses and it just like instantly goes to zero, the exchange, like us, we end up being out a ton of money because there's no way for us to like make you pay us back the money that your like account is negative. So that's like that's like the really hard part. That's why no one really has prediction markets right now. And I think it was someone came out with them recently. I think it was DYDX has prediction markets, perps on prediction markets, they call it. And their solution to it is basically just that like you don't get paid out the full amount if you're right because they can't take all the money away from the people who are wrong. So like that is a solution, but it's like kind of a shitty one because you end up like having 100x long open and you're right, but like maybe it only ends up treating it as like a 2x long because they weren't able to get enough money out of the short traders. So it is an interesting problem. Some people are trying to solve it in different ways. We've got some ideas that we're testing internally. Like maybe we have the funding rates go to like a insurance fund that ends up paying everybody out, stuff like that. But it is definitely a harder problem to solve than like it first looks at first glance. But that is something we want for sure. We're trying to do it.
Awesome. Well, I know that you guys are looking to launch on Arbitrum. Are there plans to expand to maybe Base or other popular high TVL chains?
Good question. So the reason I guess we're on Arbitrum right now is just because Arbitrum we kind of see as like the nexus of on-chain DeFi. A lot of the new protocols that, like I mentioned, like Hyperliquid, GMX, like
Yeah.
they have a really good roster of DeFi protocols already on there. So the reason we're there now is just because there's a ton of perps traders that we think we can easily get to come over without having to bridge. In the future, there's nothing like ideologically or anything locking us in to Arbitrum. So ideally, like as this multi-chain future becomes more abstracted, like we mentioned, like things go behind the scenes, we want to be able to deploy on Solana, Base, like every chain that we can to just be like kind of a chain agnostic, like universal app. So I don't know. I think that a lot, that's kind of the goal of a lot of projects is like, we don't want to have to worry about what chain we're on, and we don't want our users to have to worry about what chain we're on. So like the less our users have to think about it, like that's where we're going to go. So right now that's Arbitrum. In the future, that may be Solana, Base, wherever else. Ideally, long term, it's like we can be everywhere and like nobody has to bridge ever, or at least doesn't know it. So yeah.
I mean, I can definitely see variational, just like Unichain having their own layer 3 chain, Arbitrum Orbit.
Seems to be the trend for perps platforms too, with
The
DYDX and
exactly.
Hyperliquid. They're all
The
doing
age
the same
of the
thing. So.
age of app chains are upon us, and everyone laughs at Cosmos. Telling you, man.
Not me. I'm a Cosmos boy. I have myself
As am I.
some
As am I.
unicorn tokens.
There you go. That's so funny you say that because I have the QR codes for at Denver. They came out with these. There's a guy just handing out unicorn masks, and on the inside there are these QR codes to claim unicorn meme tokens.
I love it.
Yeah,
Their team is great. They're fun.
yeah. My daughters, they should probably wear that for Halloween because they're scary unicorn masks. I will say they're not.
They weren't
They're
at
not.
permissionless, unfortunately.
They were not. Sadly enough, they were not. I want to be respectful of your time and thank you again so much for being here today, Max. Excited to have you
Of
back
course,
on.
it's been a blast.
Yeah, I think that perps are important, and especially with the amount of perps that you guys are having, that's a huge deal in my personal opinion. So being able to, like you said, we start on Arbitrum because we do feel it's like the center of DeFi. To be able to launch, a gigantic perps platform with all kinds of money makers, not money makers, market makers available to help you in that vision is important. I did want to talk about your journey for a minute. You're a young guy in this space, Max. So tell us a little bit how you got started. And I want to know from being, under the age of 30 in DeFi, that's very generous, I guess, but there's a lot of people under 30 in DeFi. What's your perspective of being of that age in this space?
Man, okay, so I'll take you through the journey. So I'm 22 right now.
My goodness, you didn't have to say that.
I am under 30 right now still. And the way I look at it is like, I feel like me and like people my age and younger, like we're kind of like the first crypto native generation. And like, maybe I'm not even in it. Maybe it goes a little bit younger than me, but like I found out about Bitcoin when I was a teenager. And like some of my earliest memories of Bitcoin are like going on websites like the Bitcoin faucets where you like watch ads and like get paid out dust and like stuff like that, where it's like very like nascent, nobody really knew what was going on. And I don't know, like I found out about Bitcoin probably like 27 16 17 15, somewhere in there, and pretty immediately was like very interested, going to conferences, stuff like that. And I guess the biggest thing I'll note is like the transformation that's happened from when I first found out about crypto to now. Like sometimes I even step back and it is insane, because like I remember going to conferences where like there were 100 people and like you would have like huge people like come up and speak. Like Roger Ver was like a massive figure back in the day, and like he would show up to a conference and like literally like 50 100 people would be there to listen to him speak. So that has like obviously, whenever I go to like a conference now, like permissionless, like it just blows my mind that like it really feels like the space has grown up, which is awesome. But yeah, I guess go through like my journey. So I found out about crypto, probably I'll say 2016. Started writing like blog posts on Steam It, if anyone remembers that back in the day, just about like random crypto stuff that I thought was interesting. And then I went to college at UT Austin, which is what this hat is for. I saw a question about it in the chat earlier. I was on the speech team for a little bit. But I went to UT Austin and joined the Texas Blockchain Club there. And they had just been founded like the year before. So I got there in 2019 and they were founded in 2018. And through the year before and then my freshman year, they worked really hard to build a course about like intro to blockchain and have a couple more like advanced courses at UT. So that was like kind of my earliest like time where I really got to dive deep and be like, okay, I get the whole like ideological piece, like stateless money, blah, blah, blah. But how does this actually work? How do I teach it to other people? So that was a great experience there. Really taught me like the fundamentals of the tech and like started getting into DeFi and like kind of all the other aspects of crypto that I didn't really know even existed yet. So ended up teaching that class with a professor at UT for like 2.5 years, which was awesome. Like it really helped me like, because I don't know, they always say like having to teach things makes you have to learn it really well. So like having to teach the fundamentals of blockchain like for 4 or 5 semesters or whatever, like definitely got, you know, proof of work and all that stuff is like very strong in my head now. And then the professor that I worked with at UT to do that course introduced me to the job I was at previously, which was a layer 1. And that was a very like comprehensive time where I got to like see the depths of the tech and like what being like a core dev looks like and what kind of tooling you need for a layer 1, like block explorers, apps on top of a layer 1, grants programs. So that was where I really like trial by fire, like really got my hands dirty. And I would consider myself like a true like crypto bro at that point. And then about 4 or 5 months ago, I left to go to where I am now, Variational. And that's been a blast so far. Like before I was in person, my previous job was in person in Austin. And now I'm remote, feels even more like crypto native. And like I haven't even met the other guys on the team in person. So it is fun. Like it's I guess it's weird to say, but like I've never had a job like full time that's not a crypto job. And yeah, I've been like reading and learning about Bitcoin since I was like 15, 16, maybe even younger. So yeah, that's why I like to say that like I am the beginning, if not just before like the true crypto generation. Because I think the people that grew up like a little younger than me and found out about it like around the same age, if not younger, like they're going to be like MetaMask MEV gods. Cause like they're, you know, they've had 10 years of, it's like learning a language, right? It's easier when you're younger. So, yeah, I think I'm excited to see like what the next gen of crypto looks like. The kids who are like 15, 16, 17 now, just finding out about it. And I love to keep my pulse on like, and this is actually just like general advice. Like blockchain clubs at universities are awesome. Like great people. They do really cool things, like really useful research a lot of times that they just like publish for free. They do events like talking about fun things. So I'd love to keep my pulse on that. And like the kids are all right. I'll tell you guys that right now. Like the kids are cooking up some crazy shit in their blockchain clubs. Like the hackathons I've seen have been crazy. So it's yeah, I'm excited for the next like 5-10 years of crypto. I think we'll see some true masters of the industry come out.
Yeah, we've it's funny because when I started, you know, with Bitcoin, I actually, you know, bought a little bit so I could play poker online. Which is kind of like why most of the OG crypto bros are all poker pros.
It was that, and then the one other reason that shall not be named.
Exactly, the other reason that we won't talk about roads and on whatnot. Um, but yeah, look out for this guy, guys. This guy, the future's bright. Enjoyed my time talking to Max. You know, in Salt Lake City. That's why I invited him here. Great timing with Variational, you know, coming forward with their seed raise and many more awesome things to come from this platform. I'm personally excited. I love working with perp dexes. It's something we talk about quite a bit in our group. We'll go ahead and end on this. What can we look forward moving forward with Variational, Max?
Yeah, so I mean, probably like tomorrow we're going to launch the trading competition that I was briefly referencing earlier. So if you want to come try it out, tomorrow would be a great time to play around on testnet, maybe win some USDC. And then right after that, probably like early mid next month is when our invite only mainnet will go live. So I've been talking with Chris here, and we're gonna try and get some codes, some invite codes over to Beacon to see if we can get some people on very early. So that'll be like a private testing environment where like it is real money and you'll be able to trade legit. But it'll be like the only way to get in will be through a ref code, and we'll have some fun strategies and incentives and all that kind of stuff around that. So keep an eye out for that. And then I guess the next big milestone would be, I guess, our public mainnet, which we're looking at probably like end of Q4, like December, January kind of timeline right now. And that'll be when we like open the floodgates. Anyone can come in and trade as much real money as they want. So those are kind of like the next couple milestones, but it'll be fun. This PR was a big one for us today, the press release. So it's yeah, today's a busy day. I gotta dive back in the Telegram trenches after this one.
Same. Definitely want to thank you for being here today. Would love to have you back
Would love
here
to
with
come
us.
back.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds great. And real quick, just wanted to talk about call for help. We had 3 questions come through that I wanted to highlight. First was, where do I start? How do I start farming? And how do I make a profit without paying high gas fees or getting scammed? That's from Erica. Jack asked how to safely navigate crypto decentralized. And Raphael, my guy, I'm scared to use my money. Can't afford any losses. When and how long can I see growth in my money? All great questions. All things you can find out here at Total Value Locked. Again, skool.com/beacon. You'll learn it for free, learn it from the best in the business. My introduction to DeFi module right here is fantastic for addressing all of these questions. And again, if you want to get through it faster, join our Beacon Accelerator. If you know some of this and you want to be with the best of the best, join the Beacon Mastermind. Happy to have you in all of our groups with all the great people we have in this space. Again, excited for Variational. We definitely need to see some movement on the perp dex front, and this is a big move on the perp dex front. So excited to do more with them. And again, I'll put a link I'll get it from Max to put it on the on both the YouTube post as well as the tweet. So if you could retweet the recording for this, everyone would greatly appreciate. Of course, like and subscribe if you're on our YouTube channel. We're here every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. We've been doing this show in some form since December of 2021. And we're going to continue to do so, talking with the best minds and people and projects in the Web3 and DeFi space. And stick around for me 1 second, Max, as we do our outro. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next Wednesday here on the TVL show. Beacons up, banks down. See you guys later. 07.